Hi everyone, how are you all today? I've had a fairly hectic week as always, which some of you may be aware if you've just realised that last week launched the Brutac knit along, which is our autumn knit along, and that always makes for a crazy week as I answer questions, get people started and ship all of the kits out the door. So anyone who's gotten started or maybe who's thinking about it, have a quick look over at KnitHub. You'll find a link here, or you'll also find it on my website. Anyone who wants to go in and have a poke around and take a look, because you can see all of the questions answered and all the interactions, but you need to make an account if you want to actually, if you want to respond to anything. But it's become a really nice way of having all of my customer support and knit along interaction and all of that stuff in one place that's very directly linked to my website. So I'm really excited and happy about the fact that is the case, because I think it gives a very nice experience for people as you're coming along. Now, if you are taking part in the knit along and you've been kind of taking a look at the Brutac and some of the colours, there's been a few changes. The Hatter's Teal Party I actually had up at the start, and then we sold out of it, and the supplier is currently out of stock, so that's been taken off. However, I have put up, let me grab it here, one of the favourites that I've actually had a couple of questions on as to if it could be in the kit, Sea Veggies, which is a beautiful kind of a deep rich green. And in fact, I had a hard time deciding between this and the Drift Glass for the Brutac. Hiya, nice to see someone from Germany popping in there. So this is up there now. Also, everything else I'm going to have stock in very shortly. There's a new order in with a supplier. Because it's coming via UK for the moment, there is usually a few weeks delay because it has to get through customs and things like that in Ireland. But once you actually go ahead and if there's something you want that's not shown in stock, all you need to do is put down a notification and I will email you as soon as the stock arrives and it's back in stock. But I do find it safer to not put it up for pre-sale, because sometimes it can be a week coming through, sometimes it could be 2 or 3, and if you're not expecting that delay, I don't want you to be disappointed. So it just seems safer to leave it, but you can stick your notification up there, and I'll get it out the second that yarn arrives in. It'll come up. However, having said that, everything bar Drift Glass right now, and perhaps, I think Drift Glass is the only one that is currently out of stock. And most of the rest are up there. So there's still plenty up there for you to get started with. Anyone else who's actually getting started with the knit along, I'd suggest, if you haven't done brioche before, grab the basic instructions, just brioche knit flat and just practice just for a few inches until you really feel comfortable with brioche as a stitch pattern. So if anyone else has any questions about the knit along in general, you can pop them up there, or any other questions for that matter. I'm reading it as it's going through, so I'm happy to answer as they come up. What we've actually been doing in the background here, Cottage Notebooks is sitting there. She has, otherwise known as Nadia, she's been pulling together a lot of collections for autumn collections, and yarn palettes combined with different patterns that work well for autumn. Because I know it's a little bit general, because of course autumn's different in everyone's experience. Sometimes it's very short for people in Ireland. Autumn is really longer than winter, to be honest with you, because we've got a lot of in-between weather. And so usually for me, autumn is all about transitional stuff, things like fingerless mittens, because you don't want something as warm as gloves or anything like that. Cardigans tend to be very good because you can open the front if you're too warm, or you can button it up if you don't want to. Sometimes wool, but a lighter gauge, so that it's when you are maybe cold, but it's just as likely to turn sunny and you need to be able to cool down very quickly. Shawls are always good because you can just put them on your shoulder, wrap them as a scarf to keep you extra warm, or toss them back a little further if you are too warm. And it had got me thinking about autumn palettes, and realized that A lot of the colours I like to knit with are probably autumnal. I've got a question there from Elsa Louise. Would Blosta be a possible substitute? I'm assuming you mean for the burdock for brioche. Weight-wise, it would be a good substitute. If you've got some in hand, you might want to swatch it up, because Blosta is, I suppose, a hardier yarn. It's got lovely bounce, but it doesn't drape in the same way that Nua would, because the combination of the merino and particularly the yak, it's a much smoother surface, so you're going to get a little bit more drape with that. So it can be knit, but it will look different. So in order to figure out if you like because different doesn't mean bad, it just means different. So if you do a swatch and you like the way it feels and you like the way it looks, then go for it. It will have the advantage that it's not going to have the density or the weight that brioche normally has, because it's woolen spun, it's going to be a little lighter and it's not going to weigh it down. So that will work to your advantage. The question is it going to make it feel a little bit bulkier or not? And you need to answer that question yourself, really is the answer. Sorry, not much help, but I would suggest swatching, particularly if you want to practice brioche. Use your Blosta, swatch away, see if you like the feel of it, and you can go from there. But yes, what was I talking about? Oh, color palettes, particularly autumnal color palettes, thinking about it and trying to figure out what do I consider kind of autumn. And often I suppose autumn is very much tied up with the kind of colors you have with changing leaves, so a lot of rusts and browns and oranges, and then that also swings to a certain extent into Halloween, and I suppose the oranges and all that come from Halloween. And looking at most of the range back there, a lot of the newer range in particular is very autumnal, and Blosta kind of swings in a little bit, like with your golds and your greens with the quilta and all of that. They're also, I think, of a very autumny feel. I always think of it as golds and rusts, and basically tied with changing colors of leaves and changing colors of the outdoor world, really. Anyone else have any thoughts? What would you think of as an autumn color or color palettes? Or if something that you're knitting with, you think, oh, this is a very autumn color, what would it be to you outside of the golds and browns and rusts and oranges and things like that? So if you just pop it up, I can share it with people as it comes up. And I've got here a couple of ideas as well for different patterns that I think work pretty well with the different seasons. So hats are always a good one. These two are perpetually two of my favorites. This is in US Sport, so it's a little bit lighter, might be a bit more suitable for this time weather. And this one here is Le Scanner hat, similar, but obviously it's a heavier gauge, and you can feel it when you hold them. There's a bit more density to the Le Scanner, slightly different cables running through them, but they're both worked from side to side with short rows to shape the crowns. So the crowns on these are relatively similar. Hang on, I haven't quite got the crown of this one over. Relatively similar because the short rows creates all of that shape in the middle. So these are pretty good for in between, and they're fun to learn short rows and cables all together. And you've got a little bit of provisional cast on and grafting. There's loads of fun stuff in these. So yeah, depending on whether you want a little bit heavier, probably closer to the winter, I suppose, for Le Scanner, slightly lighter weight for Palatino. For anyone who would like to have a small project to challenge themselves on with two-color brioche, which of course the burdock is not two-color brioche, just a single color, but two-color brioche in the round is these furrow mitts. They're really comfy and they actually fit very well, and there's a lot of fun techniques going on in this, because you see the way the stripes change from one to another here. That would be known as syncopation, where you're flipping back and forth. The ones that had been brioche knit become brioche purl, and the ones that had been brioche purl become brioche knit. And what that does is it changes the dominant color, or the color that's in the stripe that you're going to see. Down here, it's the blue color is the dominant one, or it's really dark color in this. And then this one, the lighter Bare Necessities, is the one that comes up. And this is one of my favorite parts of it here. The increases for the thumb are it's 4-stitch increase. It's 5 out of 1 just worked up along here, so it all grows out of the side of the thumb. And very simple increase. There's nothing very complicated about it, but it just creates a really pretty effect. So they're pretty good for practicing brioche in the round, particularly brioche with 2 colors in the round. So if you want a challenge that's small and come out with a pattern or a pair of gloves that work really well, then furrow are a good one to go with. These ones here are knit in 2 colors of what is it? New Sport. So this is sport weight, so it's a little bit lighter. Again, transitional. I'm staying on theme. Look at me, staying straight on theme here. And the other thing I'd been thinking about here, oh wait, I've got one more pair of mitts here. This one is the Peterwell mitts. And so these ones are done in worsted weight with a cable up the front. Again, very, very quick to work. In fact, I had Hazel Tyndall from Scotland was in one of my classes where we were doing this. It was a 3-hour class, I think, and she had the mitt completely finished while I was talking and moving around and doing other things by the time we'd finished. So they're plenty quick. You definitely, if you had a full evening, you'd knit one and get started on the second one. And it's a good way of learning cables as you work and kind of doing your increases and decreases and things like that to make the whole thing work nicely in cables. They're in newer worsted, so a little bit heavier, but again, being fingerless is going to be a little lighter. And cowls was the last thing. And in fact, these kind of match up with what I was talking about here, because this is the Peterswell cowl. So it uses the same stitch pattern as were in the gloves, but you can see that this is all that was in the gloves. This one has this little transitional part, and then it goes back up to this again. I've got Rosie Hazel as the goat of knitting. No idea what you mean by her being the goat of knitting. I assume you mean she knits like a demon. That's completely true. Couldn't believe how fast she got through it. But this anyway is the cowl version, and this is the scanner. So the hat that I showed you earlier, but this is a super deep one, and it's long enough that you just wear it twisted like this. Lovely and warm. So if you've got like an open neck like this, the weather turns cold. If you've got one of these in your handbag, or even the smaller ones, oh, the greatest of all time. Okay, that makes more sense. I'm really, really bad with contractions because I can never figure out what they're supposed to be. So yeah, stick one of these in your handbag and you're set for that change of season, and your neck won't get cold. So cowls, excellent for those transitions. So anyone else got any good transitional things that you like to knit in between when it's not warm, it's not cold, and you could end up with 3 seasons over the course of the day? Layers, cowls, and fingerless mitts are all pretty good in my book. And I thought I would share with you as well, because I know Elsa Louise, who popped up here a while ago, you've been asking me about the marled cardigan that I've been working on. And I got back to you and said, I'm still working on it, but I'm taking my time because I've got lots of other secret knittings in between. And so that's become the one where I'm not thinking about it too much. Rosie, small shawls as well. Yeah, absolutely. I think they can kind of double up even as cowls, where you can wrap them around your neck, and so it's going to keep you warm, or pop it over your shoulder. But I thought I'd share with you what I'm doing with my sweater. And the reason I'm taking my time is normally I'm under a time crunch, and so this is actually a gift for one of the kids, and I'm doing a sweater version that will be for their girlfriend. And what this means is, if there's something I'm not totally happy, normally I'm in a rush and I'm like, okay, I might rewrite it in the pattern, but I won't necessarily re-knit it, or might send it to a sample knitter. Whereas with this one, I'm taking my time so much that I'm stopping and sitting with it for a little bit, and if I'm not happy with something, I'm going back and redoing it. I'm really bad at that because normally I'm a forward motion machine, so I think it's good for me to stop and take my time with certain things, and this was the sweater that was the case. So I'll show you where I'm at. I'll move back a bit so you can see it a bit better. The sleeves are slightly long on me on this one because it is knit for someone with longer arms than me. And what I was actually working with here that I redid was the cowl, because I wanted a big, or the cow shawl collar. Sometimes people, no, it's not a cowl collar, that's the one that folds up. This is a shawl collar. I had knitted where the front was just 2 inches wide here, and I just done another 2 inches thinking, oh, it'll fold back over itself. But it didn't really work that way, and so it ended up kind of sitting like this. And so I had finished off the whole edging on this and realized I didn't like it, so I took it off and I added another 12 short rows across the back, and I really like how it folds now. It sits down neatly. I'm trying not to pull it over the microphone in case you're wondering why I'm kind of hanging it sideways. You love the girlfriend sweater. Usually is the boyfriend sweater. You have smart boys. Yes, we're doing the other way around because the boys, well, boys, I can't actually say boys anymore because several of my kids are transitioning. So Dylan is now going as a she. So, but regardless whether Dylan is she or he, the cardigan was always been what she would prefer. So, Elsa Louise, lovely and cozy. Thank you. I'm going to have a hard time giving it up. I think I might be robbing it from Dylan every now and again. So that's kind of my my wrap up for the moment. So if you have any other questions, you can pop them up. The different patterns that I was talking about, I'll put a list of the names there so that you can more easily just pop onto the website and you can find them. This cardigan is going to be a few months because of course I have to finish my second sleeve. And once I finish the second sleeve, it'll go to the editor and then it goes to testers. So it's probably going to be close to the end of the year that it should be ready. So bye everyone, have a good week.